My dear friends, we often hear the word attitude. Someone says he has a good attitude or her attitude is negative. But the real question is, what is attitude? Attitude is how you see life and respond to it, not what you own. This one statement has the power to transform the way we live. Many people think that their identity is in their possessions, in the brand of clothes they wear, in the size of their house, or in the number of digits in their bank balance. But life is not measured by the weight of our wallets. It is measured by the weight of our attitude. What you own can impress people for a short while, but how you respond to life is what truly inspires them for a lifetime. Think about it, two people may walk into the same office every morning. One person wears an expensive suit, drives a luxury car, but greets everyone with arrogance, irritation, and ego. The other person wears simple clothes, perhaps drives an ordinary bike, but greets everyone with warmth, a smile, and respect. Who do people feel more attracted to? Who leaves a stronger impression? The truth is, people may admire what you own, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And how you make others feel is directly linked to your attitude. Let's take an example from our daily lives. Imagine you spill a cup of tea on your shirt just before leaving for work. Now you have two options. You can curse your luck, slam the cup, shout at others, and carry that irritation the whole day. Or you can laugh at yourself, quickly change, and say, "It's okay, these things happen." Which response will keep your peace? Which response will make your day lighter? The situation is the same, but the attitude changes everything. Many people blame circumstances for their unhappiness. They say, "I will smile when my salary increases. I will be happy when I get a bigger house. I will feel positive when I achieve my dream job." But life doesn't work that way. If your attitude depends only on what you own, then your happiness will always be delayed, always postponed into the future. On the other hand, if your attitude is about how you respond, then you can be happy even with little. A small room can feel like a palace if filled with gratitude, but a mansion can feel like a prison if filled with complaints. Think of a street vendor selling fruits on a hot day. His earnings may be small, but many of us have seen such vendors smiling, cracking jokes, and calling out customers with energy. On the other hand, you might have seen someone in a corporate office, earning 10 times more, but always frowning, always stressed, and always complaining. This proves that joy is not in what you have, but in how you live. Attitude is also about resilience. Imagine a child learning to ride a bicycle. He falls once, twice, 3 times. Now, he can either throw the bicycle away and cry, "I'll never learn," or he can wipe his tears, get back on, and try again. What defines him is not the fall, but the attitude he carries after the fall. Similarly, in life, we all fall through failures, rejections, and heartbreaks. But the way we rise again is what makes the difference. In families too, attitude matters more than possessions. A house filled with expensive furniture but constant arguments is not a happy home. But a simple house, where members support and respect each other, is filled with warmth. Parents who maintain patience and positivity in front of their children teach them more than any school ever could. When children see their parents respond to challenges with calmness and wisdom, they absorb the same. That is the gift of attitude. It is contagious, it spreads from one heart to another. Even in workplaces, the right attitude outshines skill. A company may hire someone because of their degree, but they will keep them because of their attitude. A talented person with a negative mindset drains energy, while an average skilled person with a positive mindset lifts the entire team. Think about colleagues you enjoy working with. It's rarely because they are the smartest in the room. It's because they are cooperative, encouraging, and kind. Once again, attitude triumphs over possessions and titles. One of the most powerful truths is that attitude shapes perspective. Two people can walk in the rain. One curses, "What a miserable day." The other smiles, stretches out his arms, and says, "How refreshing." The rain doesn't change, but their inner world does. The beauty of attitude is that it is in our control. We cannot control the weather, the traffic, or the behavior of others, but we can always control the lens through which we look at them. And that lens makes life either a burden or a blessing. At the end of the day, what remains with us is not the list of things we owned, but the way we responded to life. Our possessions can be taken away in a fire, a flood, or a financial crisis, but our attitude is something no one can steal. That is why successful people often say, "Take away my money, my business, and my home, and I can still rebuild everything because my attitude is with me." So, when we wake up tomorrow, let us remind ourselves, it is not about what car we drive, what clothes we wear, or how much money we count. It is about how we smile at others, how we respond to challenges, how we stay calm in chaos, and how we choose to see life. That is the real wealth we carry. And once we understand this, we will stop chasing possessions to define us and start cultivating an attitude that elevates us. Because ultimately, my friends, what you own may fade, but how you respond will remain forever. Same situations can be lived differently depending on attitude. This simple idea has the power to open our eyes to how much control we actually have over our happiness. Two people can face the exact same challenge, yet their experiences can feel like two completely different worlds. It is not the situation that defines them, it is their mindset, their perception, their attitude. Think about waking up on a rainy morning. One person sees the rain and complains, "Oh no, my plans are ruined. The roads will be dirty, traffic will be terrible." He drags himself through the day, irritated, annoyed, and miserable. Another person wakes up, looks at the same rain, and says, "What a blessing, the earth is being nourished. The plants are dancing, the weather feels fresh." He makes a cup of tea, sits by the window, and enjoys the moment. Both are living the same rainy day, but one is suffering while the other is celebrating. This is the power of attitude. It changes an ordinary situation into a burden or into beauty. Take another daily life example. Two students get the same exam result. Both score lower than they expected. One throws the paper away, says, "I am a failure. I can't do this anymore," and gives up. The other looks at the same marks and says, "I need to try harder. Maybe I didn't prepare the right way. Let me learn from this." The result on the paper is identical, but the results in their lives will be worlds apart. The first will spiral down, while the second will rise higher, because attitude, not marks, determines their future. Even in traffic, you see the difference. Imagine two drivers stuck in a jam. One is honking, swearing, shouting at others. By the time he reaches home, he is exhausted, angry, and full of negativity. The other listens to some uplifting music, makes a phone call to someone he loves, or simply breathes deeply and accepts what cannot be changed. He also reaches home late, but he carries peace instead of anger. The traffic jam was the same, the journey was not. In relationships too, attitude changes everything. A couple can face financial struggle together. One partner may say, "Why are we so unlucky? Life is so unfair," and fill the home with frustration. The other may say, "This is a tough time, but we are together, and together we can handle anything." Their income is the same, their bills are the same, but their home feels completely different. One filled with complaints, the other with hope. Think of health challenges. Two patients in the same hospital room may be diagnosed with the same illness. One cries, complains, and says, "Why did this happen to me? Life is cruel." His days become darker, his energy weaker. The other says, "I cannot change the diagnosis, but I can choose to fight, to stay positive, to encourage others around me." Even in pain, he smiles, inspires nurses, uplifts fellow patients. The illness is the same, but the journey of healing is completely different. Children often remind us of this lesson. Give a child a cardboard box, and one might complain, "It's boring." Another child, with imagination and a playful attitude, turns it into a car, a house, or a rocket ship. The box is the same, but the experience is completely transformed. Adults forget this simple truth. We keep waiting for life to give us better circumstances, when in reality, it is our inner approach that makes even small things feel meaningful. Workplaces are another powerful example. Imagine two colleagues given the same difficult project. One keeps saying, "This is impossible, I can't handle this," and avoids responsibility. The other says, "This is tough, but it's an opportunity to learn and prove myself." When the project ends, both will have different outcomes. The first may still be stuck, while the second grows in confidence and skill. The project was the same, but the growth was not. Attitude is like wearing glasses with different lenses. If your glasses are tinted with negativity, everything looks dark and hopeless. If your glasses are tinted with positivity, the same world looks bright and full of possibility. The world doesn't change, but your lens does. That is why some people seem happy and hopeful even in hardship, while others seem bitter even in abundance. Think of history's great figures. Many of them went through situations that were painful, unfair, and challenging, but they chose to respond differently. Where others saw defeat, they saw opportunity. Where others saw obstacles, they saw stepping stones. This is what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Not circumstances, but attitude. At the end of the day, life gives all of us our share of sunshine and storms, of smooth roads and bumps. We cannot escape situations, but we can decide how to live them. Two people can walk under the same sky, one grumbling about the heat, the other grateful for the light. Two people can face the same storm, one cursing the wind, the other adjusting his sails. And two people can live the same life, one in misery, the other in meaning, simply because of the difference in attitude. So whenever a difficult moment arrives, pause and ask yourself, am I choosing the attitude that makes me weaker, or the one that makes me stronger? Am I reacting with bitterness, or responding with wisdom. Remember, the situation is shared by many, but the way you live it is entirely your choice. And that choice, made again and again in small daily moments, defines the story of your life. We cannot control life's events, but we can control our response. This is one of the most liberating truths in life, yet many people live without realizing its power. Every day brings us situations that are beyond our control. Traffic jams, sudden rains, delays, rejections, illnesses, misunderstandings. We often waste our energy trying to fight what is unchangeable, instead of focusing on the one thing that is always in our hands, our response. Imagine standing at a bus stop. The bus is late by 20 minutes. Now, you cannot change the timetable. You cannot force the bus to arrive faster, but you can control what you do in those 20 minutes. One person may curse, pace up and down, feel angry, and spoil his mood before even reaching his destination. Another person may use those same 20 minutes to listen to a podcast, read a book, observe the surroundings, or simply practice patience. The bus comes at the same time for both, but one arrives drained while the other arrives calm. This is the difference response makes. Think of a workplace situation. A project you worked hard on is criticized by your boss. You cannot change the fact that the criticism has been spoken, but you can control how you take it. One response could be to feel insulted, talk negatively about the boss to colleagues, and carry resentment. Another response could be to reflect, maybe there's something I can improve. Let me learn from this. In the first case, the same event becomes a source of bitterness. In the second, it becomes a stepping stone to growth. The event is fixed, but the outcome is shaped by your response. Even in relationships, this principle is powerful. Sometimes people we love hurt us, not always intentionally, but because they too are human. You cannot control the words that have already been spoken, but you can control whether you respond with anger or with patience. Imagine a husband and wife in an argument. One reacts instantly with harsh words, escalating the fight. The other pauses, breathes, and says, "Let's talk when we are calmer." The disagreement is the same, but the result is completely different. One leads to a storm, the other to understanding. Life also throws bigger challenges, like losing a job. The fact of being laid off cannot be undone, but one person may respond with despair, giving up hope, and blaming the economy, the company, and life itself. Another person may respond by updating their skills, networking, applying again, and using the time to grow. The job loss is the same, but the story that unfolds afterward is shaped by response. Health is another area where this truth shines. A patient diagnosed with diabetes cannot erase the diagnosis, but they can control whether they respond by neglecting their diet or by embracing a healthier lifestyle. Two people with the same illness can live completely different lives because their responses create two different paths, one toward decline, the other toward strength. Let's take a small but common example, the weather. A picnic is planned and it starts raining. No one can stop the rain. One group may complain the entire time, or day is spoiled. Another group may laugh, play in the rain, and make the day memorable. The weather is the same, but the memory created depends entirely on response. This truth is also visible in history. Great leaders were not people who could control every event around them. They faced wars, betrayals, and crises like everyone else. What set them apart was how they responded. Some chose courage when others chose fear. Some chose forgiveness when others chose revenge. Their greatness lay not in their circumstances, but in their choices. In everyday life, controlling our response also means refusing to hand our peace over to others. Someone may insult you on social media. You cannot delete their comment from the world, but you can decide whether to engage in a bitter argument or to rise above it. Someone may cut you off in traffic. You cannot change what they did, but you can choose not to let it ruin your day. The more you master your response, the more freedom you feel, because you realize no one else controls your happiness. It is like holding an umbrella in the rain. You cannot stop the sky from pouring, but you can shield yourself with the right attitude. Or like sailing a boat, you cannot control the wind, but you can adjust your sails to reach your destination. Life's events are the wind and rain. Your response is the umbrella and the sail. Ultimately, the strength of a person is not tested when everything goes smoothly, but when things fall apart, when you lose what you wanted, when people disappoint you, when situations don't go your way. That is when your response becomes your greatest power. Complaining changes nothing. Blaming others changes nothing. But choosing calmness, patience, positivity, and action, that changes everything. So whenever life throws an unexpected event, pause and remember, this may not be in my control, but my response always is. That simple awareness transforms pain into growth, delay into patience, rejection into redirection. Life will never fully bend to our desires, but our responses can bend reality into something meaningful. And that is how we create peace within ourselves, regardless of what is happening outside. Attitude is like the one that gives value to all the zeros in life. Without it, life can appear full, but in reality, it may have no worth. With it, everything we do, everything we achieve, and everything we go through becomes meaningful. Imagine writing down a line of zeros on a page, 100,000, 0,000. No matter how many zeros you add, the number still remains nothing. But the moment you place a single 1 before those zeros, suddenly they transform into 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. That one digit changes the entire equation. Similarly, attitude is the invisible one that gives value to our work, our wealth, our education, our relationships, and our life itself. Consider education as an example. A student may have multiple degrees, a wall full of certificates, and shelves stacked with books. Those degrees are like zeros. They look impressive. But if the student's attitude is arrogant, dismissive, or negative, the degrees lose their power. People may admire the qualification, but avoid the person. On the other hand, another student may not have the same level of formal education, but carries humility, positivity, and a willingness to learn. That person becomes respected, valued, and loved. The difference lies not in the number of degrees, but in the one placed before them, the attitude. The same applies to wealth. A millionaire without gratitude or kindness may live surrounded by luxuries, but also surrounded by loneliness. His bank balance is filled with zeros, but without the right attitude, those zeros feel empty. Contrast this with someone of modest means who lives with generosity and joy. Their attitude makes even small resources abundant, filling life with richness beyond money. The millionaire may own more, but the person with the right attitude lives more. In workplaces, this principle shines brightly. A company may be filled with highly skilled employees, each skill adding another zero to its potential. But if the overall attitude in the office is negative, toxic, and self centered, those skills do not create growth. Instead, they cancel each other out. Conversely, even a small team with limited resources, but with the right attitude of cooperation, commitment, and positivity can achieve wonders. There, one multiplies the zeros into real value. Relationships, too, become valuable only with the right attitude. A family may live in a grand house with every convenience and comfort, but if the members treat each other with disrespect, impatience, and ego, the home feels hollow. The zeros of wealth and comfort cannot fill the emptiness. Another family may live in a small space, sharing simple meals, but with an attitude of love, patience, and support. That home becomes rich in ways money cannot measure. It is not the zeros of possessions that matter, but the one of attitude. Even in personal success stories, attitude plays the central role. Many athletes, artists, and leaders have shown us this truth. Talent is like zeros, valuable only when attitude gives them direction. A player with extraordinary skill, but a negative attitude, often wastes opportunities. But another with moderate skill, backed by discipline, humility, and perseverance, often surpasses expectations. Talent may open doors, but attitude decides whether you can walk through them and stay inside. Think about challenges as well. Life often gives us difficulties, loss, rejection, failure. These experiences by themselves may feel like zeros, meaningless or painful. But when we add the one of a positive attitude, those same failures become stepping stones, those rejections become redirections, and those losses become lessons. The hardship doesn't change, but the value it brings to our life changes completely. Let's use a simple everyday example. Two people get the same salary. One looks at it and says, "This is not enough. I can't do anything with this. Life is unfair." He sees only the zeros. Another person with the same salary says, "Let me budget wisely. Let me save. Let me use this to grow." His attitude multiplies the same amount into opportunities. The money is the same, but the life it creates is different. Even in social circles, people remember not what you own or what titles you carry, but how you make them feel. A person with many achievements, but a negative attitude, often finds themselves isolated. But someone with simple achievements and a bright attitude often finds themselves surrounded by genuine friends and respect. It's the one of attitude that makes every interaction valuable. Ultimately, attitude is the master key. Without it, life can appear to have many zeros: work, money, possessions, opportunities. But those zeros will carry no weight. With the right attitude, every one of those zeros becomes magnified, powerful, and meaningful. That is why people say, your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your altitude. So when you look at your own life, remember that all the zeros you are collecting, your education, your career, your income, or your relationships, gain true worth only when placed after the one of the right attitude. Cultivate that one, and you will find that everything else naturally multiplies into something extraordinary. Without it, even a million zeros will still add up to nothing. Right attitude is humility and growth, not arrogance. Many people confuse attitude with showing off with trying to look superior, or with constantly proving themselves better than others. But that is not attitude, that is arrogance. True attitude is never about standing above people. It is about standing strong within yourself and lifting others up along the way. Humility is the silent strength that allows you to grow, while arrogance is the loud weakness that eventually pulls you down. Think of a tree. The taller it grows, the deeper its roots go into the soil. The branches may stretch high into the sky, but they bend gently when the wind blows. That is humility. On the other hand, a dry stick that refuses to bend is easily broken. Similarly, people who rise in life with humility continue to grow and inspire, while those who rise with arrogance soon collapse under the weight of their own pride. In daily life, you see this difference everywhere. Imagine two colleagues promoted to the same managerial position. One walks into the office and says, "Now everyone must listen to me because I am the boss." He demands respect, boasts about his title, and criticizes others. The other walks in and says, "I may have this new role, but I am here to serve the team, to learn more, and to work together." He earns respect not by force, but by his humility. In the long run, the arrogant manager may lose his team's trust, while the humble one builds loyalty. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself, it is about thinking of yourself less often. It does not mean denying your achievements. It means not letting achievements blind you to the value of others. For example, a doctor may have years of experience, but a truly great doctor listens to patients with patience, speaks with kindness, and treats even the poorest with dignity. That humility, combined with skill, makes them not only successful but unforgettable. Arrogance, however, blocks growth. A student who thinks, "I already know everything," stops learning. A businessman who believes, "I cannot fail," stops adapting. A leader who says, "I am always right," stops listening. Eventually, arrogance isolates them from wisdom, from opportunities, and from people. In contrast, humility keeps the mind open. A humble student says, "There is still more to learn." A humble businessman says, "I must keep improving." A humble leader says, "Let me hear other perspectives." That openness creates endless growth. Look at relationships. Arrogance destroys bonds quickly. Imagine a husband who constantly says, "I am always right. You must listen to me." His arrogance suffocates the marriage. Compare this with a husband who says, "Maybe I was wrong. Let us find a solution together." His humility strengthens the bond. In friendships too, arrogance makes one person dominate, while humility makes space for equality and care. The most lasting relationships are built not on ego, but on mutual respect and humility. Even small daily situations show this truth. Suppose you are standing in line at a store. One person, arrogant, pushes ahead and says, "My time is more important than yours." Everyone feels irritated. Another person, humble, patiently waits, even lets someone go ahead if they are in a rush. That simple gesture creates goodwill and respect. The line is the same, but the experience changes with attitude. One of the most powerful signs of humility is gratitude. An arrogant person takes everything for granted: opportunities, people, even life itself. They say, "I deserve all this." But a humble person says, "I am thankful for what I have been given." Gratitude keeps arrogance away and creates space for growth. For example, A student thankful to a teacher learns better, while one who takes the teacher for granted misses wisdom. Gratitude makes every blessing shine brighter. History offers countless examples. Many great leaders and saints lived with extraordinary achievements, yet they carried themselves with simplicity. They treated others with respect, regardless of status. Their humility made them truly great. On the other hand, history is also full of stories of kings, rulers, and powerful figures who fell because arrogance blinded them. The rise and fall of people are often written by the ink of humility or arrogance. Even in personal growth, humility is the foundation. When you accept that you don't know everything, you open the door to learn. When you admit your mistakes, you create space to improve. When you acknowledge others' contributions, you build stronger connections. Humility is not weakness, it is the strength to say, I can grow more. Arrogance says, I am already at the top. But the truth is, life always has higher mountains to climb, and only the humble are willing to continue climbing. The beauty of humility is that it silently influences others. People naturally feel comfortable around someone who does not boast, who listens, who respects. They are drawn towards such a person because humility feels safe, warm, and uplifting. Arrogance, in contrast, pushes people away. No one enjoys being around someone who constantly brags, belittles, or dominates. Attitude, therefore, is not about shouting how great you are, but quietly showing greatness through humility. At the end of the day, humility and growth go hand in hand. The more humble you are, the more you grow. And the more you grow, the more humble you become, because you realize how much more there is to learn, how vast life truly is. Arrogance closes doors, humility opens them. Arrogance shrinks your world, humility expands it. So the right attitude is not arrogance, but humility that fuels growth. Be like a tree, rise tall, but bend with grace. Be like water, strong enough to carve mountains, but humble enough to take the shape of any vessel. That is the kind of attitude that inspires others and transforms your own life. Positive attitude turns "why me" into "try me." These two simple phrases show the contrast between a defeated mind and a courageous heart. When life brings difficulties, most people instinctively ask, "Why me?" as though problems are unfair punishments. But those who carry a positive attitude respond with strength, saying, "Try me," ready to face the challenge and grow from it. The words we choose in hard times shape the story of our lives. Think about an athlete preparing for a marathon. During training, he feels pain in his legs and exhaustion in his body. A negative mindset says, "Why me? Why do I have to struggle so much?" But a positive one says, "Try me. Let this pain shape me into someone stronger." The same pain either breaks or builds a person, depending on whether they complain or accept the challenge. Every medal, every achievement, and every story of success begins with someone who said, "Try me." Consider academics. A student fails an exam after studying hard. One reaction is frustration. "Why me? Why did this happen when I worked so much?" Another reaction is courage. "Try me. I will prepare better. I will not give up." The second attitude turns failure into fuel. It transforms an obstacle into a stepping stone. The difference between those who stop at failure and those who rise above it is not talent, but the words they whisper to themselves when faced with setbacks. Even in professional life, this truth is evident. Imagine two employees denied a promotion. One sulks and complains, "Why me? I deserved it." He spends his days bitter and unmotivated. The other says, "Try me, I will prove myself even more. I will sharpen my skills and I will create new opportunities." Over time, the second person grows and eventually outshines everyone. The promotion is the same rejection, but the responses write two completely different futures. In health too, the choice of words matters. A patient diagnosed with illness may cry, "Why me? Life is unfair." That mindset creates hopelessness, often making the journey heavier. Another patient with the same illness says, "Try me, I will not let this define me. I will fight, stay strong, and inspire others." Such people often live longer with better quality of life because their attitude fuels resilience. Doctors themselves say that a positive spirit aids healing more than any medicine. Life in families also shows this contrast. A family may face financial struggles. One member constantly says, "Why us? Everyone else is living better. Why do we have to suffer?" This attitude spreads despair in the home. Another member may say, "Try us, we will work harder, stay united, and overcome this." That positivity becomes the anchor, giving everyone strength to push through. It is never the difficulty that breaks families. It is the attitude with which they face it. Take even the smallest example, being caught in heavy rain without an umbrella. One person complains, "Why me? Of all days, today I had to get drenched." Another laughs, splashes through puddles, and says, "Try me, let me enjoy this gift of nature." The rain is the same, but one walks away miserable while the other creates a joyful memory. Life constantly gives us such moments, tiny opportunities to replace "why me" with "try me." History too is filled with such stories. Great inventors, leaders, and reformers all faced failures and resistance. If they had asked, "Why me?" they would have stopped. But they chose "try me," and that is why the world remembers them. Thomas Edison, when asked about his thousands of failed experiments, never said, "Why me?" Instead, he said, "I have not failed, I have just found 10,000 ways that don't work." That is the "try me" spirit. The "why me" attitude focuses on problems, while the "try me" attitude focuses on possibilities. One drains energy, the other generates it. One creates excuses, the other creates action. One closes doors, the other opens new paths. Life is not about avoiding struggles. It is about learning how to face them. And nothing prepares you better than the strength of saying, "Try me." When we say, "Why me?" we place ourselves in the role of a victim. We surrender power and wait for someone else to fix our life. But when we say, "Try me," we take back our power. We accept that challenges are part of growth, and we step forward with courage. That shift in words changes fear into faith, weakness into strength, and defeat into determination. So, the next time life throws a challenge, pause before saying, "Why me?" Replace it with, "Try me." Whether it is an exam, a rejection, a financial hurdle, or a personal loss, remind yourself that you are stronger than the problem. You may not control what comes your way, but you can control how you face it. And every time you choose courage, you not only grow yourself, but you also inspire everyone watching you. Because ultimately, the strongest people are not those who lived easy lives. They are the ones who faced storms and said, try me. They are the ones who refused to complain and instead decided to conquer. And when you adopt that attitude, you will discover a new power inside yourself.